Good morning. Another Sunday morning in Toronto. It is sunny here with great temperature for Canada. I think it's 20 something degrees here. People are out there enjoying their time. Let me look at the temperature. Yeah, it's 23 degrees Celsius. That's amazing. Actually, it's 25 now. And I'm live from Toronto talking about immigration to Canada. So before all of us join this live session, a quick introduction. My name is Al Parsai. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and I'm the author of the book 88 Tips on Immigration to Canada. You can find out your purchasing options by visiting any Amazon website or visiting 88tips.ca. My expertise is immigration to Canada, so pretty much anything related to work permits, study permits, inadmissibility, visas, etc. I deal with them. I have 10 years of experience in this field as an independent immigration consultant, and I also teach immigration courses at Ashton College in Vancouver and Global School of Corporate Excellence in Toronto. So before we move forward towards the questions, and of course, if you have any questions, you can post them here, and then I will answer those questions. Let's just take a look at quickly at the news and stats and see what's going on. So the first thing is about express entry. So the last round of express entry, they actually didn't invite many people. The last round was on May 20th, 3 days ago, and then invited 1,824 people. But they were all Canadian experience class, and the lowest CRS was 397, which is lower than previous round, which was 401. And that's great news. In fact, I had clients among those people who were invited, so I'm glad for them. And also, it looks like that they will continue inviting Canadian experience class for now. However, just yesterday, Canada passed the 50% mark, meaning that 50% of adults received at least one dose of coronavirus vaccine. That means that we are moving towards better days in terms of opening the border and also accepting immigrants. That's what I'm hoping for. In terms of Canadian-US border, it will remain closed until June 21st, 2021. Whether they will open it after that or not, this is something that is being debated. Many people in the United States have received their vaccination. Many people in Canada have received their vaccination. So we're hoping that we see some positive movements in terms of reopening the border between the United States and Canada. Unfortunately, with the other countries, the situation won't be exactly the same because there are some countries that are still struggling with coronavirus situation. And I honestly don't know how the government will respond to the crisis over there in terms of reopening the borders to all other countries. So let's wait and see. And of course, the concept of vaccine passport is on the table. If that happens, that probably we may come up with something that, for example, people who are fully vaccinated may travel to Canada. I'm not sure how this will evolve. Let's keep our fingers crossed that everything will go well. In terms of TR to PR, public policy, as you probably know, 90,000 people were going to be accepted from May 6, 2021 to November 5th, 2021, or whenever the cap reaches, 20,000 people as healthcare workers, 30,000 people as essential workers, and 40,000 people as international students. But all of those people need to reside in Canada. So for people who are outside Canada, unfortunately, this is not an option. So far, out of 20,000 healthcare workers, only 1,455 people have applied. So this means that we have plenty of room. And from what I see, it looks like that this option will remain open to November 5th, and probably we won't reach the cap by that time. From essential workers that are non-healthcare, out of 30,000 applications, 9,658 have been submitted. So this means that about 27%, less than 30% for sure. And actually, it's slightly more than 30%. But about close to 70% is remained. So probably this will extend, probably from what I'm seeing, maybe to the end of July and maybe even beyond that. But let's keep our fingers crossed that it will go even beyond that. I have some prospects that they meet the requirements, so hopefully they will be able to apply by the time they have reached the 1 year of experience, or they have taken their exams, because they're waiting. Some of them are waiting to do their exams. And in terms of international students, 40,000 people were going to be accepted. And in 27 hours, those 40,000 applications were submitted. But there are some signs that there is a chance that the government will increase the cap for international students. We have to wait and see. There are some rumors going on, so let's see if those rumors are correct. If you know the French language, and by knowing French language as an international student, you can receive NCLC 5 or higher under every skill. For essential workers or healthcare workers, NCLC 4 or higher, then there is no cap for you. So you can apply at any time until November 5th, especially if you're an international student under international student group, and you have managed to meet the requirements in terms of everything else, but unfortunately the cap has reached. But you know French, then you can take a test in French, TEF Canada or TCF Canada. And if you get good marks, then there is no cap and you can apply under that program. So if you're close to get NCLC 5 or CLB 5, then that's the way to go. Okay, so if you have any questions, just post the questions and I will answer them one by one. Don't worry about it. Then, so that's about TR to PR. In terms of other immigration options, because I received so many inquiries, many of the visa offices are not working right now, or they just deal with essential things to do. For example, the visa office in Mexico City, they only process work permit applications for healthcare workers and for agriculture workers. In terms of other visa offices that I know of, for example, Delhi, the New Delhi office and all other Indian offices, it looks like that they are not working, because even when we send them messages, they don't reply back, or we receive automated messages. In terms of the visa office in Ankara, it looks like that they are not active right now. We don't see much from them going on. So that means that we face many delays in terms of processing outside Canada applications. One of the questions that I've been asked constantly is about spousal sponsorship applications. Unfortunately, with the spousal sponsorship applications, we had some very good and positive movements back in fall 2020 and early, probably January 2021. But starting from mid-February and especially from March 2021, we encountered more lockdowns in terms of processing applications. So many of those applications are now stalled and they are not being processed. And And obviously, there will be some delays in terms of processing of spousal or common law partners applications. For parents and grandparents applications, the government announced last year that they will accept 30,000 new applications this year in 2021. They haven't opened the expression of interest to accept applicants. We don't really know when they are going to do that. They have not made any announcements or any indication of when this is going to happen, or whether it will really happen or not. I don't know. So basically, last year, they opened accepting applications in between October and November. It was around October the 13th that they opened accepting the applications, and it was open for about 3 weeks. But right now, it's not clear when they will accept applications. If they want to do it just like last year, then they will accept applications around mid-October. Having said that, there are no official announcements by the government of Canada yet, and no indications of when they will go, or they are going to do what they're supposed to do. In terms of inside Canada refugee cases, they're gradually accepting applications. So right now, the way that we submit the applications, we submit them by email, and then there is a system called ePost Connect that we submit the rest of the documents through ePost Connect. And then they, after a few months, literally, they invite the people to do their biometrics. Again, it takes a couple of more months to invite them for an interview, and eventually they issue their work permit. So this means that what that used to be done in about 1 to 2 weeks before COVID-19, now it could take up to 10 months or even more after COVID-19 right now, because it's very slow. For example, in Toronto area, the IRCC office in Etobicoke is working, but it's unlike in the past that you could literally just walk in. There is no walk-in. You need to receive an invitation, and when you receive the invitation, you will be able to go to their office and file for refugee. So, and actually most of the job has been done by email. So that's what's going on in terms of inside Canada applications. For international students, what's going on is that the government promised that if you submit your application on or before May 15 and 2021 in full, then they promise to process the applications by early August. So hopefully you can come to Canada and start studying. Whether the schools will be fully open in the fall or not, we don't know yet. There are some rumors going on that most schools want to open their campuses to in-class courses. However, it might be a combination of in-class and online teaching still, because although I'm pretty sure by fall, Canada will vaccinate almost everybody that wants to be vaccinated. Even children are now being vaccinated in Canada. Children 12 or older are being vaccinated because Pfizer is approved for vaccination here. But still, I'm not sure whether the schools will be fully open, because many of the countries are still struggling with vaccination. So just to let you know, Canada is now among all the countries in the world, it's number 13 in terms of administration of vaccines. And that means that most of other countries, their situation is worse than Canada. Okay, so that's for international students. For workers, still the doors are open. You can travel to Canada and start working if you hold a work permit or you are approved for work permit. But if you're coming from a country that is exempt from work visas to Canada and you want to apply at the port of entry, right now the CBSA officers at least this is what we received, because we called them and asked them. They do not process work permit applications at the port of entry. So you need to apply online, and when you receive your work permit, you can apply. Inside Canada, the situation is different. If you are inside Canada and you apply, it's very likely that they will quickly process your application, and that's good news. In fact, I submitted a very complicated work permit application about 3 weeks ago, and my client received his work permit. Most of the work permit applications that we submit nowadays inside Canada, they receive their work permit in 1 or 2 weeks, or at most in a month. There are, of course, I have some clients that we submitted their applications inside Canada. It has taken longer, but those people, I'm pretty sure it's because of background check and those issues. So that's a wrap up of what's going on in the world of immigration. The last thing is about CIO, Central Intake Office in Sydney, Nova Scotia. They are not currently working properly. It's very slow. And we have submitted many applications more than a year ago that they just have received a temporary file number, not even a real file number. And that means that if you are submitting your application for renewal of your permanent resident card, for citizenship, for startup visa, for federal self-employed class visa, expect delays. Okay, you may face significant delays. The same thing is in Canada, spousal applications, because it goes to CPC in Mississauga. In Ontario, right now, Ontario is in lockdown, and probably the lockdown will remain in effect until mid-June. And this means that CPC in Mississauga is not working properly, and there will be some delays in processing protected person, permanent resident applications, and also inland spousal applications. Okay, let's go to the questions, and then if we have more questions, we will go ahead and answer those questions, or I will come back and talk about the topic, because we still have 40 something minutes left. So Afan Shahid says, sir, my sister has Canada PR. Will it affect my student visa? Okay. I got what your question is about. So generally speaking, of course, I cannot offer immigration advice for a specific case, but I can generally talk about this issue. No, because just because somebody's sister has permanent residence in Canada, it doesn't mean that they will refuse his or her application for a visa. Having said that, if the officer overall is not satisfied with the case, they may indicate in the refusal that you do not meet the requirements of paragraph 216, 1B because of your family ties in Canada. So sometimes they mention that, but if they are not overly happy with the application, sometimes they do that. But I've had many clients that they had very close relatives who were Canadian citizens or permanent residents of Canada, and they managed to secure work permit, study permit, etc. Will that affect your application? It shouldn't, but as I mentioned, if in general the officer is not happy with the application, as part of the refusal to say why we refuse the application, they may also mention that you have a strong family ties in Canada. Now, if somebody has also strong family ties in their home country, they can kind of diffuse that. So in other words, if I have one sister in Canada who is a permanent resident or citizen of Canada, but I have 3 sisters outside Canada and my parents are there, then in those situations, I personally, in my application for my client, I mentioned that although my client's sister holds a PR in Canada, but my client also has 3 other siblings in his or her home country, and also her parents is in her home country. So that kind of reduces the chances of refusal. And again, this is very generic. Unfortunately, the process of temporary resident visas work permits and study permits, they are discretionary. At the end of the day, it goes back to the officer that will review your application. You all have been students, and some of the teachers are tougher than the other teachers. The same thing is for the officers. You never know which officer will review your application. Is it an easygoing officer or a tough officer? And if there's a tough officer, they may use that against you. If there's an easygoing officer, they may completely ignore it. But generally speaking, this shouldn't be the main reason for refusal of a study permit application. It could be part of the context of the whole application. Moloi says, hello. Muhammad Afaq says, sir, what about PGP program? So I explained, unfortunately, with PGP, parents and grandparents, we still no announcements, nothing. We're still waiting. So Varinder Mahendru, I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Varinder Mahendru, beautiful name. Sir, what about new public policy for childcare provider pilot program? So, okay, got it. So basically what they are trying to do is that they are trying to ignore some of the elements of immigration to Canada and allow certain childcare people to apply for permanent residence. This is under the authority of the minister under Section 25.2 of the Immigration Act, which allows the minister, says that under basically humanitarian and compassionate considerations, I can ignore some of the elements of specific immigration option to Canada and allow the people to immigrate to Canada. And I think because I had this discussion with some of my students as well, it's a bit confusing what they are saying through that, at least for me, through that public policy. But my understanding is that because the minister has decided to wrap up the immigration for this group and they want to eliminate the backlog, the ultimate issue is that they said that if you're opening an application and a few pieces are missing here and there, still approve the application. That's the very generic definition of what's going on. I don't have the specifics right in front of me, but there will be better days, let's put it this way, for permanent residents of those that applied for permanent residency under child care provider. So the next one, pre-arrival, I don't know what is IMM 5801. Oh, okay, got it. So yeah. So basically, this is just some of the services that you could receive as a permanent resident when you come to Canada. So when you are a landed immigrant, there are certain services in terms of job finding, etc., that you could receive. They have tried to streamline that in a better way to offer services when you are coming to Canada. But honestly, right now, because of COVID-19 situation, if you have received your COPR, you may not even travel to Canada because the borders are closed, with the exception of those people who are sponsored in Canada. But there is a link on IRCC website that you can read that as well. It just gives you all the information that you need about this pre-arrival assistance and form. Okay. So where is the next question? Muhammad Afaq, can I go with my father as dependent children? I'm single and age is 26. So Muhammad, I don't know about your case, so obviously I cannot offer immigration advice to you. But generally speaking, a dependent child is somebody by default who is under 22 years old and is single, not married. Okay, so that's important. Not in a common law relationship, not married, and under 22. Under exceptional situations, children over 22 are also considered dependent children. And those are children that are significant financial, they have significant financial dependency on their parents because of a medical issue. So it's a physical inadmissibility or mental disability or a combination of both. So those kind of significant things could lead to dependency of that child to their parents. This is a tricky approach, though, because if somebody claims that they are significantly dependent on their parents because of significant medical issues, then that could make them inadmissible to Canada. And because of that, the whole family becomes inadmissible to Canada. And so if even we are dealing with a case of that nature, that the child is over 22 or over, and that child is dependent on their parents financially because of medical or mental health issues, then we need to look into the issue of medical inadmissibility to Canada as well. It just twists everything significantly. But generally speaking, children over 22, they are not considered dependent children. So Hiren Patel, if I get permanent resident file number in Canada, self-employed visa, means my eligibility check complete? Unfortunately, no. The answer is no. So basically, when you apply as a self-employed person, the first step is that you send your application to Central Intake Office, which is an office in a city called Sydney, but not Sydney, Australia, Sydney, Nova Scotia. Then there is an officer that does a preliminary check. And that preliminary check is just to see if you have submitted a complete package. And by submitting a complete package, it means that they look at the checklist and they compare it to the documents that you have submitted. They don't look into the actual documents, with some exceptions. They just say, for example, if it says documents pertaining to experience, have you submitted some documents pertaining to your experience? But they don't look at the validity of those documents. They just look and see if you have submitted some documents to support your experience and so on. So they look into all those documents. And then if you have submitted a complete package in regular days before COVID-19, they issue your AOR, acknowledgement of receipt, which says that we received this application on such and such date. And then they will pack it and send it to the visa office. So the decision maker is the visa office. The decision maker is not CIO. In fact, majority of the officers that work at CIO, Central Intake Office in Sydney, Nova Scotia, they are newbie officers. I don't think they are even qualified to finalize the processing of an application of this nature. Many of them, they just have started working for IRCC. Of course, we have some senior officers over there as well. And so unfortunately, you cannot count on that. That means nothing. It just means that you submitted, you submitted a package based on the checklist, not even if you have proven your experience or your intent and ability and those kind of things. And self-employed class is one of the most complex application options for immigration to Canada. Even if you look at my articles on my website, I have multiple articles on my website. I have warnings on the bottom of each of those articles that be careful with submitting that application. I have personally probably submitted more than 500 of those applications to various visa offices in the world. And I can tell you that this is not easy. If you do not have representation, I highly recommend that you get in touch with a professional for help, a professional that has significant experience in the field, because it's not easy. So even if you have submitted the application before, somebody can review your documents and tell you what is missing or what you need to do, etc. Okay, so Afan Shahid sir, why do IRCC need parents' information for IMM 5645 from form, do they do background check for parents as well, as I'm applying for a student visa? So the family information form is to make sure that you don't have any issues with the immigration authorities. So this means that it will help them to cross-reference things and find information about people. It just adds dimensions to your application and allows them to better assess your background. Whether they will look into the background of your parents, not necessarily. And obviously, an officer cannot say, because of your parent did such and such, so we will not allow you to enter Canada. But they could link you to things. Okay. So, for example, if somebody's parents were, I don't know, members of Al Qaeda, then maybe they need to look into the affairs of this person in more details. And I'm just making this up. Don't take it as an official answer to your question. But generally speaking, information about parents, information about sisters and brothers, children, etc., on a family information form allows the officers to better assess the background of the applicant and also check the credibility of the applicant, because sometimes when you have various forms, there are contradictions between those forms, then it could just show them that this person is not credible enough. So that's the gist of it. But whether they will check the background of your parents for a study permit, it's extremely unlikely. It's just a study permit application. So the next one is from Niraj Pathak. It's, sir, I have applied for self-employed PR and sent all documents filed to Sydney, Nova Scotia office on May 10th. What is my expected time for process of my application and my visa file number? So Niraj, unfortunately, the application process is very slow. We have people that they submitted their applications in March 2020. So that means 14 months ago, and still they only have a temporary file number and no actual file number. And that's partly because the Sydney, Nova Scotia, since March 2020, has been almost closed. They rarely process any applications. And because of that, of course, I cannot talk about your specific case, but generally speaking, for somebody who has submitted their application, it's likely that they need to wait months before they actually receive their final file number, at least based on what is going on right now. What will happen in the near future? I don't know. Nobody can predict the future, me included. Okay, so the next one. Oh, that's quite interesting, because the next question is from Mr. Future. Hi, Al. Thank you so much for your time. CIC received my medical. How much time to approve rest of my processing for PR? Okay, so I don't know what your application is, so I cannot comment, because a medical examination for different applications is submitted at different stages. But usually when they ask for medical examination for a PR application, it's the last stage of processing of that application, and they concurrently do a background check. If that's the case, I have had clients that they received their COPR, or confirmation of permanent residence, or passport request for confirmation of permanent residence, only 2 weeks after they did their medical examination. And I had a client that it took him 22 months to receive that. So as you can see, in reality, what will happen to the application after that is uncertain. It was even uncertain before COVID-19. It all depends on the complexities of background check for that person. That's for normal application in terms of the the traditional applications. For advanced applications like express entry, that you do kind of an upfront medical examination. In those situations, medical examination is nothing. I mean, it's part of the process. It doesn't indicate anything, because while you're submitting your documents, you're also submitting your medical. But if you have received a request to do medical examination, then it's usually the last step. They concurrently will check inadmissibility in all aspects of your application. If they are satisfied that you are not inadmissible to Canada, they issue a passport request or COPR, depending on your nationality. And also keep in mind that right now, because of COVID-19, with the exception of spousal applications, sponsorship applications, unfortunately, the rest of applicants may not currently travel to Canada, even if they receive their COPR. So Ramandeep says, what about the spouse visa? So I answered that question. Again, we had some good momentum from October 2020 to probably mid-February 2021. But unfortunately, again, the third wave of coronavirus hit, and everything is slowed down nowadays in terms of spousal applications. So the next one is from Shiraya Syullah. Do conjugal partners need to select marital status as common law while applying for express entry as a couple, as we don't have an option for selecting conjugal partners? Unfortunately, we don't have the option for conjugal partners for express entry. The concept of conjugal partner is for a sponsorship application. It is defined under Section 117 of the regulations, which is specific to sponsorship applications. If two people are conjugal partners, it means that they are not cohabiting. Then by default, they may not immigrate together to Canada. However, you really need to, I think, when you are dealing with this, you really need to talk to somebody. You can book an appointment with me. Of course, it's not free, but I can look into your case and see, does common law partner or other options apply to you or not. Otherwise, unfortunately, by default, conjugal partners cannot apply together for immigration to Canada under economic class, because if you're just in a casual relationship and you do not cohabit with each other enough, then you probably cannot accompany each other to Canada. That's the very broad answer, because I don't know the specifics of your case. So obviously your case could be different. Okay, so I'm lost. What was the last question I answered? Oh, here. What about the spousal sponsorship? I answered that. So what if I don't mention about my sister in family information form, since he has... First of all, obviously I cannot offer. So that's the question is from Afan Shahid. But what I can tell you, if somebody doesn't mention information about his or her family in his form and her form, that's considered misrepresentation. And misrepresentation means a 5-year ban from immigration to Canada, work permit in Canada, study permit in Canada, visiting Canada. So 5 years of inadmissibility to Canada. The immigration authorities could go even beyond that. And under Section 126 of the Immigration Act and 127 of the Immigration Act, they could also go in the direction of jail time and fines and criminal offenses for that person. So it's a very dangerous decision to make, to hide information. Also keep in mind that, especially with sisters and brothers, the immigration authorities have the information. Probably when your sister applied for immigration to Canada, they mentioned your name as a brother. So you cannot just simply by ignoring one file think that you can cheat immigration authorities. I'm not going to say that immigration people cannot cheat their way to come to Canada, but the immigration authorities have also their own ways to find these things and put people in trouble. And I've seen it over and over again. Believe it or not, I receive messages on a daily basis. I mean, some days I receive multiple messages about people who have received procedural fairness letter about misrepresentation, or who have already been identified as inadmissible because of misrepresentation. So this is a very dangerous area to enter. And of course, it's also against the law. So obviously, I highly recommend that you stay away from those activities. So Godwin Obasi, hello Sarah, my open work permit visa application is still showing submitted in my Canada CA portal. Does it really take 33 weeks for the visa to be considered? So Godwin, I don't know about your specific case, and obviously I cannot offer immigration advice to you, but what I can generally say that unfortunately many of the applications for work permit are stuck in the system because of so many reasons. And the most obvious one is that the visa offices are not working properly. I have applications that are stuck in CPC Edmonton, applications that are stuck in visa office in Abu Dhabi, applications that are stuck in visa office in Mexico City, applications that are stuck in New Delhi, in Ankara, you name it. I have pretty much applications in at least probably 5 to 10 different visa offices that they have been waiting for processing for more than 10 weeks. Some of them even a lot more than 10 weeks. I have an application that's stuck since August 2020 for a work permit. And every time that we communicate with them, they either say that we are not working or they say that we are checking the background of this person. So we don't know, unfortunately, because of coronavirus. In the past, the situation was clear. Most work permit applications were processed in a matter of days, not weeks, with some exceptions in some visa offices that we had backlogs, and some of them, they had a backlog of 20 weeks of processing, 16 weeks of processing, and so on. But majority of visa offices process work permit applications in a matter of days. Unfortunately, the coronavirus situation has changed everything. And I'm tired of saying unfortunately because of coronavirus, to be honest with you. The next question is that I'm interested. So Spousal and Sponsorship Canada, I already answered that, Ramandeep. So the next one is Pratik Kumar. Hi, I'm interested in knowing more about the entrepreneur, self-employed candidate seeking to operate business. I'm based in Dubai. So Pratik, I have multiple articles on my website. If you look up job creators visa, I have an article about that. About C11, I have an article. I have videos about those job seekers and C11. Sorry, job creators, not job seekers. I have also about how much investment you need to make and those kind of things, how to register a business in Canada. If you're interested, you can read those articles. If you wish that we assess your situation to see if you qualify, you can go on our website. We have an assessment form, and you can basically fill out the assessment form. Go on settler.ca. It's free. If you believe that this applies to you, we'll get in touch with you and for further assessment of your case. If you want to take it further, you can book an appointment with me. Appointments with me are not free, but I will answer every single question that you have about the process, whether you qualify or not. I can assess you and tell you if this is a good option for you or not. So the next question is, but you can, as I mentioned, I just posted the link to our assessment form. You can just click that link and fill out the assessment form. That's for free. Nobody charges you for the assessment. But we only contact you if we find an opportunity for you. So the next one is from Rochelle Okeng. Good morning, sir. Good morning. After they received my medical result last December 2020, I assume it's December 2020, spousal sponsor, how like I should wait for the decision? Do I need to go for the interview? Thank you. So after the medical examination, as I mentioned earlier, again, it's not specific to your case. Generally speaking, after the medical examination, you should just wait, sit and wait, and hopefully they will issue the PR for you. They usually ask for medical examination when they feel that they don't need to interview the person. Whether that eliminates the chance of interview, obviously not. The officer at any point of time, if they feel they need to interview the person, they can interview the person. Interviewing for a spousal sponsorship is not that common, but it happens. And so, for example, for me, in the past 10 years that I have been doing this, I had only 2 or 3 of my clients that they have been ever interviewed. I remember one of my clients was interviewed by the visa office in Beijing. The other one was interviewed by the visa office in Ankara. And I had a couple of cases that the officer called the sponsor and asked them some questions. Actually, one case. I don't remember beyond these 3 that I've ever had any client of my clients being interviewed. So it happens. It happens. They sometimes interview people, but it's rare. It's not that common. It's not like in the past that they pretty much interviewed everybody. But usually, not necessarily, they interview people before medical examination, not after. How much money do I need to open? So, Mr. Weld, a Kuzma investor business in Canada. What's type of Mr. Weld? I think you will continue coming to this meeting sessions for the next 3 months to ask your questions in bits and pieces. It depends. I cannot answer that question. I don't know. Honestly, I wish, these are the kind of things that you can easily book a consultation session. And honestly, if somebody is going to invest thousands of dollars in Canada, I don't think spending $200 for a consultation session is too much. We can review those together. We can literally look at your documents and decide what is it. And if you are not the applicant and you are the actual immigration consultant that you need to know, I have mentorship packages for immigration consultants, and I have many immigration consultants that they book sessions with me, and I help them with their questions. So it's probably instead of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and I see your name probably for the past 4 or 5 weeks, we can have an actual session together and review that instead of wasting time. It's up to you. No obligations. You have no obligations to book a session with me, obviously. But if you want the official answers, let's have a session. So the next one is by Conroy Pinnock. How can you return to Canada after an exclusion order of overstay? So if you wait for 1 year when your exclusion order is over, then you are not inadmissible because of your exclusion order. But again, just like before, either you need to apply for a work permit or a study permit. If you need a visa to come to Canada, you need to apply for a visa. If you need an ETA, you need to apply for an ETA. But the exclusion order on its own loses its power in terms of making you inadmissible after 1 year for a regular exclusion orders like overstaying. If it's because of misrepresentation, obviously it remains in effect for 5 years. But after 5 years, then again, it's over. Does this mean that after 1 year or 5 years, depending on the kind of exclusion order, can you, they will definitely approve your visa or work permit or etc.? No, not necessarily, because again, they will look into the merits of your application, and obviously receiving an exclusion order in Canada is a negative point, so the officer also look into that, but the inadmissibility portion is gone. If you want to come back before that 1 year is over or before that 5 years is over for misrepresentation cases, then you have no choice but to apply for an ARC, authorization to return to Canada. Nowadays, if you submit an application for ARC, it may take them more than 1 year to process it. So basically, it's moot. It's useless to apply for an ARC for a 1 year exclusion order. But if somebody has received a 5 year exclusion order and 3 years, for example, has left from that 5 year, then yeah, it's worth it to apply for an authorization to return to Canada. If they approve the authorization to return to Canada alongside with a visa application or whatever, then the person can return to Canada. Sometimes we can apply for an ARC along with a TRP to allow that person to come back to Canada despite being inadmissible to Canada. But for overstaying, just if the person waits for 1 year, the exclusion order will not make you inadmissible to Canada anymore. Mr. Future says, thanks for my answer. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So, Shreyas Olal, thank you, Al, for answering the question. Oh, thank you. So the next one is, thank you for answering, sir. Okay, that's thank you notes. So the next one is Pratikayal. Thanks for your response. I will fill out the assessment form, and I would like to look at an appointment with you at the earliest. Thank you. Yeah, just go on our website. If you need an appointment, so by default, I charge $200 for appointments, but I have a special offer. I just let me locate that. So you can actually book an half an hour session, 40% discount, $120, and ask your questions if you want to. And again, as I mentioned, no obligations. You can just fill out our assessment form, and if we find an opportunity for you, we'll get in touch with you. So the Conroy's question, I have seasonal work permit, but I expire from 2011. Can renew of my own. 2011. Well, if it expires in 2011, we're talking about 10 years ago. So no, there is no renewal for something that expired 10 years ago. The person by default, again, I don't know about your specific case, but generally speaking, if the work permit is expired and somebody wants to apply for a new work permit, you need to apply for a new work permit from scratch. There are some options for people who overstay in Canada to apply for an extension, for restoration of their status, but that's usually by default is only 90 days. And the only exception is right now because of coronavirus. If somebody has lost their status on or after January 31st, 2020, and they're still in Canada, they may apply for restoration of status by August 31st, 2021. So that's an option that is available. I think by May 31st, you can apply for an restoration of your status. But the rest of people, outside coronavirus situation, or if somebody has lost their status before January 31st, 2020, then unfortunately the only option is to leave Canada or apply for a TRP, those kind of things. And again, it depends on the case. If you're still in Canada, it is in your best interest to book a session with me to see what's going on with your case, and then we decide what would be the best course of action. So the next question is from Martin Boberg. Which state in Canada is the best to seek asylum in? Where do asylum seekers receive the better living conditions, and where are the processing times least? So first of all, I need to let you know that Canada doesn't have states. We have provinces. It's pretty much the same. The difference is that the states have more power comparing to provinces. So in Canada, in the United States, each state has more legislative power in regards to their relationship with the federal government. But in Canada, provinces have less power in terms of legislation. But we call them province. We don't call them states. Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. And those provinces, they pretty much, the process of a refugee application is the same in all provinces nowadays, partly because now the hearings are online. So right now, for example, I have clients that they are actually in Ontario, but their hearing is in Vancouver, believe it or not. So it's basically they are in one province and the hearing is in another province. And that's because the application has become online. I cannot speak about other provinces, but I live in Ontario, and in Ontario, the process of refugee application is very well streamed. I mean, from the way that you submit your application, they go through the application, etc., and your hearing date. Having said that, in Toronto, before COVID-19, the wait time for a hearing was roughly between 1.5 years and 2 years. I've had clients that they waited for a hearing for 3 years, and clients that they were considered less complex case and they didn't even go through the hearing. So It depends on the complexity of the case. They also look into the nationality of that person, because some of the countries, they are quite known for generating refugees, and people who come from those countries, they can provide more documents. And that's why RPD, or Refugee Protection Division, either exempt from those people from hearings and they straight approve them, or they consider short hearings for them. So instead of a full day hearing, they just have a half a day hearing for them, and they, not half a day, I mean, it's like a 1 hour hearing, and they quickly wrap up the hearing, because they know that this person will easily be approved or easily be refused. And so it's very difficult to compare one province to the other province. But again, as I mentioned, now they are tossing around hearings. I mean, for the very first time, I have a hearing in the next month in Edmonton, in Alberta, and I'm in Ontario. So I guess doesn't matter that much. Having said that, larger provinces like British Columbia, like Quebec, like Ontario, they are the recipient of majority of refugees, and that's why all the tools for refugees are in place. I mean, settlement organizations are quite familiar with the refugee process, etc., etc. Also, in terms of those refugees, it's very rare that they put a refugee in prison, or I don't know, detain them. It's very rare, I can tell you that, in Canada. But if they do, for example, Ontario is the yeah, I think Ontario and Quebec are the only provinces that they have a full-fledged immigration holding center. This means that this is a detention center for immigration purposes. And this kind of detention center is not like a regular jail. It's very open. They have a TV room, they have open spaces, libraries, etc. It's just a confined building rather than a confined cell. It's much more human-like comparing to other provinces, because in other provinces, if, again, I emphasize that imprisoning refugees is a very rare thing, but if they decide to detain a refugee claimant in other provinces, there is no immigration holding center, so they have to send them to regular prisons. But in Ontario and in Quebec, that's not the case. And again, for the fourth time, I emphasize that it's very rare that they detain a refugee unless they have some suspicions about that person. So the next question, I have a question earlier about the spousal interview. My application is inside Canada. How long I could wait? Thank you again. Again, as I mentioned, Rochelle, I cannot comment on specific cases, but inland Canada applications, because the final stage, usually it depends on CPC Mississauga. Sometimes CPC Mississauga process the final stage themselves. Sometimes it's send it, for example, to the local office. In Toronto, for example, they send it to Etobicoke. If they send it to Etobicoke, then it will take a very long time, because it's usually they send applications to Etobicoke for further investigation of the application. But if it's in Mississauga, they will quickly issue the COPR. Right now, CPC in Mississauga is almost closed because of the lockdown in Ontario. So nobody can answer the processing time. I personally have some inland cases that are stuck in various stages for processing, and we're just waiting. And of course, every now and again, when my client gets frustrated, I just send a message to immigration authorities to follow up and see if we can push it. But generally speaking, it's very difficult to predict. So the next question is from Pratik Kumar. Hi, Al. Me and my wife would like to visit our son who is studying in University BC. Is there a possibility of travel restrictions being eased, or we can apply humanitarian grounds? Thanks. So again, I cannot talk about your specific case, but generally speaking, yes, there is a chance that there will be restrictions will be gradually lifted But honestly, I don't think that will happen sooner than the end of August or mid-August. So probably in summertime or midsummer, we will see some positive movements in terms of removing restrictions, because very soon, and when I say very soon, I mean it, within the next few weeks, we will see majority of adult Canadians have received their first dose of vaccination, and by the end of July, majority of adults and even children have received their second dose of vaccination. So that means that they will reopen the case. In terms of humanitarian reasons, right now, when they talk about humanitarian reasons, they talk about serious situations. For example, death of a relative, such as terminal disease, those kind of situations, attending a funeral. Unfortunately, beyond that, it's very hard to sell it to the immigration authorities. Having said that, if somebody is going through difficulties, for example, I'm dealing with a case that the student is right now under so much pressure that he's going to therapy. So obviously we can get a letter from the therapist here and try to push it. Now it's up to the immigration authorities whether to buy into that or not. But if they do, and if they accept, they will allow the person to travel. The chances are very, 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 very low to succeed in terms of those kind of cases. But you got to try. I mean, if you want to meet with your child and your child is suffering, then it's worth giving it a try. You submitted the application. The worst case is that they will say no. Okay. So Conroy says how it costs to book a consultation session for 30 minutes. So generally speaking, it costs $200. But if you visit this link that I posted, we have a special offer right now. You can receive 40% discount. That is $120, and it's Canadian, not American. So it's roughly around less than $100 American. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for attending this session. We passed our 1 hour mark. I have been very busy lately, so I didn't record pre-recorded videos. I will continue posting pre-recorded videos as well. As you can see, we have a new studio. This is the painting on the wall for our green screen. We have all the lights and everything in place. So hopefully in the near future, you will see that more videos will be posted on our YouTube channel. We already have 5,200 something subscribers. I can't thank you enough to subscribe to our channel. If you are not subscribers, please subscribe to our channel, like our videos, share our videos. I try to educate the population to avoid problems in terms of immigration to Canada. You can support me by purchasing my book, 88 Tips on Immigration to Canada. If you are a practitioner, I'm going to deliver a very advanced course called Advanced Course Certificate in Admissibility to Canada through Ashton College. You can actually register to that course. It's an amazing course. I will try to cover pretty much everything about inadmissibility to Canada. If you're interested, I just posted the link here. You can visit that link, and if you're interested, register. But this course is specific to immigration lawyers and immigration consultants. So you can only attend if you're already an immigration lawyer or an immigration consultant. Again, thank you very much, and see you next week.